What if I told you, you didn't fail financially? You followed the rules perfectly. You studied, you worked hard, you got the job, you tried to save money, and yet somehow, life still feels financially harder than it should. Bills grow faster than income, freedom feels far away, and no matter how responsible you are, you're always starting over next month. The day many people finally understand money is the day they realize something uncomfortable. The system wasn't built for you to win, it was built for you to participate. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Welcome to John Invests, where we break down how money really works using simple ideas and visual thinking. If you want to understand money without jargon or financial nonsense, subscribe because the goal here isn't just making money, it's understanding the game itself. Now, let's start with the moment everything changes. Most of us grew up believing a very clear formula: study hard, get a good job, work consistently, save money, retire comfortably. It sounds logical, and decades ago, it actually worked. One income could buy a house. Education almost guaranteed stability. Saving money felt safe. But something quietly changed. Not overnight. Slowly, almost invisibly. And that's why so many people still blame themselves instead of questioning the system. Here's the reality most people discovered too late. Wages grew slowly. Costs grew exponentially. Housing prices surged. Education costs exploded. Healthcare increased. Inflation quietly reduced purchasing power. You kept running, but the finish line kept moving. Imagine running on a treadmill that slowly speeds up without telling you. Eventually, exhaustion feels like personal failure, even though the machine changed. That's modern finance. Here's one of the biggest realizations people have. The system rewards ownership more than effort. Workers trade time for money. Owners use assets that produce money. And over time, this difference becomes massive. A salary stops when you stop working. Assets don't. Businesses don't. Investments don't. The system isn't broken. It's just optimized for those who own pieces of it. And nobody teaches this early enough. Many people enter what's called the middle-class cycle. Income increases, lifestyle improves, expenses rise, savings reset. You feel progress. But wealth doesn't accumulate. Why? Because income alone rarely creates freedom. Income supports life. Assets create independence. This is why someone earning less but investing consistently can become wealthier than someone earning more but only consuming. The realization hits hard. You were trained to earn, not to own. The system also shapes behavior. You're encouraged to upgrade your car, upgrade your lifestyle, celebrate spending as success, but rarely encouraged to delay gratification, because consumption keeps the system moving, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying life until enjoyment replaces long-term security. The most powerful financial shift happens when you stop asking, "How much can I afford monthly?" and start asking, "What assets am I building?" Here's the important part. Realizing the system wasn't built for you isn't bad news. It's freedom, because now you stop playing blindly. Here are practical shifts anyone can start. Every dollar has two possible futures: consumption or ownership. Start asking, will this make future money easier or harder? Even small investments change long-term outcomes dramatically. The system works best for consistency. You don't need perfect timing. You need repetition. Automatic investing removes emotion, and emotion is often the biggest financial enemy. Wealth rarely grows fast at first. Then something surprising happens. Compounding accelerates. Growth becomes visible. Momentum appears. Most people quit right before this phase. Not extreme sacrifice, just awareness. Small recurring expenses delay investment momentum more than people realize. Freedom often comes from optimization, not deprivation. Financial freedom isn't about never working. Momentum appears. Most people quit right before this phase. Not extreme sacrifice, just awareness. Small recurring expenses delay investment momentum more than people realize. Freedom often comes from optimization, not deprivation. Financial freedom isn't about never working. It's about choosing when and how you work. Assets buy options. Options create peace. There's a moment many investors experience. At first, nothing changes. Then slowly, investments begin contributing. And one day, money starts helping you instead of depending entirely on you. That's when stress decreases, not because life becomes perfect, but because you're no longer alone financially. Your past decisions begin working beside you. The goal isn't anger at the system. The goal is awareness. Because once you understand the rules, you can play differently. You stop chasing appearances, you start building leverage, you stop measuring success monthly. You start measuring progress yearly. And slowly, quietly, your trajectory changes. The day you realize the system wasn't built for you is often the day you begin building one that works for yourself. Not through shortcuts, not through luck, but through understanding. Because wealth isn't created by working harder forever. It's created by aligning effort with ownership. Here's something most people never notice. The financial world operates on rules that are rarely spoken out loud. Not secret rules, just invisible ones. For example, the system teaches you how to earn money, but almost never how money multiplies without effort. You learn how to calculate equations in school, but not how compound interest quietly reshapes an entire lifetime. You learn history dates, but not how inflation changes the value of your future. And because of that, millions of people enter adulthood playing a game where everyone else already understands the scoreboard. The realization isn't that the system is evil, it's that the instructions were incomplete. And incomplete instructions create predictable outcomes. One of the biggest myths about wealth is that it belongs to the smartest people. But history shows something different. Wealth often belongs to those who simply started earlier and stayed consistent longer. Time is the only asset nobody can manufacture. You can increase income, you can learn new skills, you can rebuild savings, but lost compounding years never return. And this is where many viewers experience a difficult emotion, regret. Maybe you wish you started investing sooner. Maybe nobody explained this before. But here's the truth most people need to hear. The second best time to understand money is today, because compounding doesn't care about perfection, only participation. And here's a question I want you to think about. If your future self could send you one financial message right now, what would it say? Keep that thought, because by the end of this video, you'll know the answer. The system doesn't just run on money. It runs on comfort. Stable routines feel safe. Monthly paychecks feel predictable. But comfort can quietly delay growth, not because comfort is bad, but because growth usually begins when awareness replaces autopilot. Many people don't change financially until something forces reflection, a job loss, unexpected expenses, or realizing years passed without progress. The goal isn't crisis. The goal is conscious decision before crisis arrives. Modern life rewards busyness. Calendars full, emails answered, work completed. But busyness and financial progress are not the same thing. You can work harder every year and still move sideways financially. Why? Because effort without leverage scales slowly. Leverage means your past work continues producing results. Investments are leverage. Skills are leverage. Systems are leverage. The shift happens when you stop asking, "How hard am I working?" and start asking, "How long will this effort continue paying me?" After realizing how the system works, many people face a new problem. Fear of starting. What if markets fall? What if I make mistakes? What if I don't know enough? But here's the paradox. Doing nothing is also a decision, and historically, inactivity has been the most expensive financial strategy. Progress rarely comes from certainty. It comes from small actions repeated long enough to become momentum. Quick question and answer honestly in the comments. What feels harder right now? Starting or staying consistent? Your answer tells you exactly where your financial growth begins. We are living through a transition period. Technology changes jobs faster than education adapts. Opportunities appear globally, not locally. Information spreads instantly. And for the first time in history, individuals have access to investment tools once reserved for institutions. This means something important. The system may not have been built for you originally. But today, access is more open than ever before. The barrier is no longer permission, it's understanding. Here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Instead of asking, "How do I survive inside the system?" start asking, "How do I build a personal system that supports me?" Your personal system might include automatic investing, controlled expenses, increasing skills, diversified income sources, long-term thinking. Small structures create massive outcomes over time. Freedom isn't one big decision. It's hundreds of quiet, consistent ones. Every financial journey begins with an invisible phase. No dramatic results, No visible success. No external validation, just discipline. This phase feels frustrating because effort and reward appear disconnected. But this is exactly where most future wealth is decided. The people who continue during the quiet phase are often the ones who later appear lucky. Consistency looks boring before it looks brilliant. Imagine waking up one day and realizing, because the goal was never to escape the system completely, the goal is to understand it well enough to make it work in your favor. And once you understand that, the same world that once felt limiting starts looking full of possibility. And then something shifts, not outside, but inside you. You begin to notice patterns you once ignored. The way urgency is constantly manufactured, the way distractions are perfectly timed, the way comfort is sold as success. You realize the system doesn't need you to fail, it only needs you to stay busy enough not to question it. Because a person who questions starts calculating, a person who calculates starts choosing, and a person who chooses becomes unpredictable. And that's the moment everything changes. And you stop asking, how do I make more money? And start asking, why does my effort produce so little freedom? You see that the real currency was never just money. It was attention. It was time ownership. It was decision power. For years, your energy flowed automatically into paths designed by someone else, default careers, default spending habits, default definitions of success. But awareness breaks automation. And awareness is dangerous not to you, but to systems built on unconscious participation. You begin to notice how mathematics quietly explains reality. Small percentages repeated consistently beat large efforts done emotionally. Ownership scales, labor plateaus. Assets grow silently while consumption demands applause. The rules were always visible, just never emphasized. Because once you understand compounding, patience becomes logical. Once you understand incentives, news becomes predictable. Once you understand risk, fear loses authority. And suddenly, the title makes sense. The system wasn't built for you, it was built to function regardless of you. But here's the twist no one talks about. You don't need to destroy the system to win. You only need to stop playing the wrong role inside it. Instead of being only a consumer, you become an owner. Instead of reacting, you position. Instead of chasing outcomes, you design inputs. You realize freedom isn't a dramatic escape. It's a gradual reallocation, one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one percentage at a time. And at first, nothing looks different. You still wake up, still work, still live your normal life. But underneath, the structure changes. Your money starts buying time instead of things. Your skills start creating leverage instead of exhaustion. Your future stops depending on a single source. That's when fear transforms into clarity, because the system rewards those who understand delayed results. While most people search for shortcuts, you begin building inevitability. Days pass without visible progress, yet foundations deepen, months pass, and optionality appears. Years pass, and what once felt impossible looks obvious in hindsight. Not luck, not secrets, just alignment with rules that were always there. And maybe the biggest realization arrives quietly. The system wasn't built against you either. It simply amplifies behavior. Those who consume more become more trapped. Those who learn patterns become more free. Same world, different trajectory. You start noticing how rare independent thinking really is, how powerful calm decisions are in a noisy environment, how wealth often grows where attention is scarce. And for the first time, you stop feeling behind. Because you understand timelines were never equal. Some people inherit knowledge early, others discover it after frustration forces awareness. But the moment of realization, this moment, resets the path. You are no longer moving blindly. You see trade-offs clearly. You recognize illusions faster. You value silence over hype. And strangely, life becomes lighter. Not because problems disappear, but because confusion does. You're no longer chasing every opportunity. You're choosing the few that compound. You're no longer measuring success by speed. You're measuring it by direction. And direction, repeated long enough, becomes destiny. So the day you realize the system wasn't built for you is also the day you realize it can still work in your favor. Not by accident, not overnight, but by design. The realization isn't the ending of the story. It's the beginning of authorship. Because once you see the game clearly, you stop asking for permission to win. You start building a life that doesn't need constant escape, a life where progress feels quiet, intentional, and real. And one day, without noticing exactly when it happened, you look back and understand the system didn't change. You did. If this video helped you see money differently, subscribe to John Invests and join thousands of people learning how the financial world actually works step by step without complexity. And do one powerful thing right now. Comment the word awake if this video changed your perspective. Your investments covered part of your expenses, not all, just enough to change how work feels. That moment changes psychology forever. Work becomes choice instead of survival. And that emotional shift is what financial freedom actually feels like. The system often defines success externally, salary titles, possessions, appearances, but financial independence defines success internally, time control, reduced stress, options. True wealth is not visible at first glance. It's felt in daily decisions, the ability to say no, the ability to wait, the ability to choose. Remember the question earlier? What would your future self tell you? Probably something simple. Start earlier than you feel ready. Stay consistent longer than others. Focus on ownership, not appearances. And maybe most importantly, understand the game before trying to win it. The realization rarely happens dramatically. There's no announcement, no warning. It usually arrives quietly, maybe late at night while checking your bank account. Maybe after receiving a raise that somehow didn't change your life. Maybe when you notice years of effort didn't create the security you expected, and in that moment a strange thought appears. Was I ever supposed to win this game? Or just keep playing it? That question changes everything, because for the first time you stop assuming the problem is you. You start questioning the structure itself. When we say the system wasn't built for you, it doesn't mean someone designed your failure. It means the system was designed for stability, not individual freedom. It needs workers, it needs consumers, it needs participation. But freedom requires ownership, patience, and independent thinking, things that systems cannot easily standardize. The realization is not about blame, it's about clarity. And clarity removes confusion. After this realization, everyday things begin to look different. Advertisements stop feeling like inspiration and start looking like persuasion. Debt stops looking normal and starts looking expensive. Time becomes more valuable than status. You begin noticing how many decisions around you are designed for short-term comfort instead of long-term security. And something subtle happens. You stop comparing lifestyles, start comparing trajectories. Because wealth is not where someone stands today. It's the direction they're moving. Most people expect transformation to come from massive changes. But financial change usually begins with tiny awareness shifts. Understanding one concept, automating one investment, avoiding one unnecessary expense, learning one new principle. Small decisions repeated over years reshape outcomes more than dramatic moments ever could. The system moves slowly, and so does real progress. That's why patience becomes a financial advantage. Think about this. 5 years will pass, whether you change anything or not. The real question is, who will you become financially during that time? The same person repeating cycles, or someone quietly building independence? The day you realize the system wasn't built for you is also the day you realize something empowering. You are allowed to design your own path. You don't need permission to learn investing. You don't need perfect timing to begin saving. You don't need extraordinary income to start building assets. You only need awareness followed by action. And action doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to begin. Before awareness, financial life feels reactive. Bills arrive, money leaves, stress repeats. After awareness, decisions become intentional. You plan instead of hope. You invest instead of postpone. You think long-term instead of monthly. And gradually, anxiety turns into direction. Not because life becomes easy, but because uncertainty becomes strategy. Here's the truth most people never talk about. Financial independence is a quiet revolution. No applause, no viral moment, no overnight transformation, just consistent choices nobody notices until years later when results become undeniable. And suddenly people ask, how did you get here? Without seeing the thousands of invisible decisions behind it. If you've ever felt like you were doing everything right but still felt stuck, comment, I see it now. Not for the algorithm, for yourself. Because naming awareness makes it real. Freedom isn't luxury. Freedom is reduced pressure. Freedom is time to think. Freedom is the ability to make decisions without fear controlling them. And that freedom grows slowly through ownership, knowledge, and patience. The system may not have been designed to give you that automatically, but it also doesn't prevent you from building it intentionally. So yes, the day you realize the system wasn't built for you can feel uncomfortable, but it's also the day you stop waiting for permission, the day you stop measuring success by rules you didn't create, the day you begin shifting from participant to architect. Because understanding money isn't about becoming rich overnight. It's about becoming free over time. And your journey starts the moment awareness turns into action.